All right, welcome back to the Moment 22 Experience Radio Show for Saturday, July 24th, 2021. Our guest is here. She was going to be here a couple weeks ago, but also foreseen circumstances getting her to come here, but she's back today. She had an interesting week, so I'm giving it to Miss Dejenaba Gordon. I said it right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm very pronunciation, so I'll make sure I got it right. So, how are you this morning?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, especially after I could not make it in this plan. So I appreciate your grace.
Thank you.
And giving me another opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't say no if something happens to you. Some things happen. Life happens. You know what I mean?
And life has been happening. Again, my name is Dejenaba Gordon. I am, the founder of B Yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And B Yoga, the BE stands for Beginner's Practice. And it is a practice where it's for all bodies, all people, and all ages. It's a place where we come together and practice, not in judgment of ourselves, not in competition of what our bodies should be able to do. For me, yoga is an escape. And so I invite people to practice with me on Sundays on Facebook Live at the Yoga South Jersey, or my page, not Juma Joy, which is my middle name. But the Yoga South Jersey. I invite people to come and practice so that they can escape. 2020 was really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And 2021 is hard. We all want to go back to normal. A lot of us are being impacted by the PSTD of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And life is still happening. I have experienced 4 funerals since May 1st. The last funeral was on Tuesday, and it has been emotionally draining. And yoga is a place of escape.
Right. So, what made you get started? Well, so, who? I mean, maybe backtrack a little bit. So, who were you growing up? What was you like growing up?
Growing up?
Yes.
I don't know who I was growing up. I can tell you, I love to dance.
Okay.
I actually was on a Brazilian dance team in my early 20s called Brazil Productions. They were based out of Philadelphia, PA. Shout out to Fatima Peters, CEO of Brazil Productions. It's no longer in existence, but it was a great part of my young adult development. Growing up, I was the only child for 10 years. I'm from South Jersey, so I lived in South Jersey from Camden to Lindenwood for the first 10 years of my life. In Camden for the first 10 years of my life. We moved to the suburbs for the second 10 years of my life. And then by college, I was in Philly for about 10 years, and now I'm back in South Jersey. My mother and I always went to different festivals, cultural events. I grew up dancing, acting, modeling. And so, I think I was the only child for my first 10 years. And then my mom had my sister and brother. My father had 3 boys, my brothers. And so, I think I've always been someone who's passionate about people, about friends. I'm a Christian. My mother raised me in the Christian faith.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up Pentecostal, then went to a Baptist church, and that leaned very heavy towards Pentecostal. And I currently go to a non-denominational church.
Okay.
I still am a follower of Christ.
Right.
And so I'm a Christian that practices yoga. Right. Don't beat me up.
Right. So how did you find yoga? Because you say it's because it's been part of your self-care, part of your practice of healing, and to get away from some things. How did you find yoga as?
I'll tell you my story. So again, I've always been interested in holistic health. So by trade, I went to college and obtained a master's degree in public health from Drexel University. I went to Temple University for my undergraduate degree. And in my process of learning about health, I've always been interested in holistic health. And so I've taken classes in holistic health. I've studied nutrition. I'm not a registered dietitian, but I do consider myself a nutritionist. I teach nutrition classes for Philadelphia Free Library System for the community. And so I think yoga is just a part of the natural progression. And so I've always been interested in yoga, and at first I became a yoga, instructor, because I wanted a better foundation in yoga. I think everyone should go through a yoga teacher training because it really just teaches you about yourself. Shout out to Studio 34 in West Philadelphia is where I received my training. It's not my studio, it's where I did my second yoga teacher training at, the one that I started and then was able to finish. It is an amazing studio. I'm really getting the foundation of being able to teach today. And so my life changed when I went through my yoga teacher training. I learned so many things about who I am. And I always say, you learn life lessons on that mat. It is so much more than a practice. It requires you to be you. And so you really learn life lessons. But my life really changed in a way that was drastic, and that led me to the mat, right? And so I started yoga, in 2020. And it was before the pandemic. And so I had just graduated in December from Studio 34. I was excited. And I was teaching at Marshall, Maine. Shout out to Marshall, Maine, Natural Beauty Supply Store off of South Street. And then the pandemic hit, and my best friend was like, "We need you. You need to teach yoga online on Facebook." And I was like, "Why would you put me out there like that? We're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not doing it." But so many people commented on my post that I almost felt obligated to the community to offer them something. And so I started teaching in 2020, 3 days a week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 10 a.m., no matter what. And I can say it was God and my practice of yoga that sustained me in 2020. I have never read my Bible as much as I did in 2020.
Right.
I have never prayed as much as I did in 2020. And so I realized that I had a tool that can allow me to get out of myself, that could help me break the cycle of anxiety and depression. I don't know about you, but I described 2020 as I was hiding underneath the rock underneath my bed, afraid every day. And so, God gives us tools, and I think that for me, yoga is one of my tools. And so what led me to the path of becoming a yoga instructor also was I had a near fatal accident in 2017. And so I remember thinking at that time, the enemy tried to take me out emotionally. Because prior to 2017, is it 2017 or 2019? Why not? It's 2017. Prior to 2017, I remember literally struggling emotionally and talking to my counselor and considering medications, right, for my anxiety. And if you need medications to manage your anxiety, please, do what you need to do for self-care. There's no judgment. I'm just telling you where I was. And so, I was working through that with the counselor and just trying to figure it out and trying to decide what was best. She didn't think it was best at the time for me to get my medications, and she helped me work through that. And so, November 4th, 2017, I had a wonderful evening with my mother. We went out. We went to an event at the African American Museum in Philadelphia. We went out to dinner. I ended up spending the night at her house because I was going to teach a nutrition class at the library on South Street Saturday morning.
Got you. Okay.
And so in the middle of the night, I fell down her steps. I don't even remember waking up. I don't remember the fall, but I remember hitting the ground. And immediately I knew that my left hand was broken. It was right? And so I fractured my neck I shattered my wrist. My neck was a stable fracture. I was in a neck brace for 4 weeks. I could not straighten my left arm. I could not move my fingers. I could not touch my chin. I could not brush my teeth. I could not even lift my arm. And my God, I mean, I've never broken a bone in my life. I've always been clumsy. And actually, that's not the first time I fell on the steps. I bruised my tailbone really bad falling on the steps. So I'm like, I'm clumsy. Like, I mean, when I fell with my tailbone, it was like, it was something on the tip. I fell, the laundry ratchet went up, it hit me in the head, and then I was like covered in dirty clothes. And I couldn't do anything but like sit there and cry because I was like, oh my God, I just fell down the steps. And so, but that accident was so much more severe. And it required a neck brace for 4 weeks. It required 3 surgeries. It required 9 months of occupational therapy and physical therapy 3 to 5 times a week. A lot of which I paid out of pocket, $100 a pop. And it required a surrendering to God. And so as a believer, I grew up in the church, and you always have those moments where, you know, the church mothers or the church cliches are like, oh, when things get bad, you know, you gotta lean on God. And I remember being so like, what? I'm a professor at a local university. And so November is really close to the end of the semester. I'm like, this is not the time for me to like be injured. I have so much work to do, you know? And I was like, the enemy couldn't take my mind, so he's gonna attack me physically. What the heck is going on?
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever been physically injured, but the recovery process is intense.
Right.
Especially when you can't do the basics like brush your teeth and clean your body.
Yeah, it gives you great appreciation before the injury. Okay, this how some little things like that mean so much. Like it's so they for granted, but now it's like I'm injured. It's really hard to do. This is so easy to me. It's so natural that it makes you be more grateful. You know what I mean? Like makes you appreciate the little things. Like okay, like things are not guaranteed. For your life can change in 1 instant.
And I haven't learned anything until life changes in an instant. Let me tell you. I mean, with death, with the pandemic, with my injury. I mean, life would change, and you better find some strategies on how to cope with the stress. You better have some tools in your box to cope. Well, I don't know how you survive. I really don't know how you survive. And so when I remember going back to work, because of course I was out of work from November to about, I was working part-time. They had grace to allow me to work part-time. I needed it at some point. Then I ended up going back full-time, I think in July or August. And so one of my first days back, I saw this young man, and he's in a wheelchair. And he doesn't have a lot of control over his limbs. And so he's in his wheelchair, and he's using his left hand to control his mobility. And he's always like, hi, Professor Gordon. And I'm like, hi, how are you? But when I saw him that day, tears just welled up in my eyes. Because I don't know his lived experiences, but I got a glimpse of what it meant to need other people to care for you to do the basics. I had a glimpse. I thought most people have no idea of what it took for him to get up, to even show up. And I think that when we see people, right, we need to see people with some type of grace and understand you have no idea what it took for that person to get up, to just show up.
Right, true.
And so when I saw him, I just became even more grateful to God that my peers were people who, during that 9 months, my peers were 16 and 7-year-old older people or adults who all knew somebody who fell down the steps and died. Who all knew somebody who fell down the steps and broke hips. Who all knew somebody who fell down the steps and they were paralyzed. And by God, his grace and mercy, I always say God will lay a pillow at your head when you're falling, even when you don't realize that you're falling, because his grace sustains us. Yes, it is. Yes, it does. And so through that injury, I was supposed to do therapy at home every hour, and the list of therapy they gave me lasts an hour, and then go to therapy. And so my life was just really consumed with this injury, right? My current reality of the injury. And so there was a gym that I would go to, and they had yoga. And I've taken yoga classes before, but I remember just sitting in the back of class and just being there and just sitting there. And the instructor gave me space just to sit there. And then I remember not being able to do prayer pose, right? Because I didn't have the flexion in my left wrist to even do that.
Right.
And so over time, I was able to, I saw my strength build up. I would do things modified. I would do what I can. And it was through that practice that I saw the impact of yoga on the mind. I remember sitting in the very beginning of my surgery, sitting on my mom's sofa, and questioning God, right? Like, what the heck is going on? And I said, this is the moment where either I can question God or I can surrender to His will. And in that moment, I surrendered and just began to praise Him and just began to accept what is.
Right.
And figure out what is my next move.
With that step.
And so, almost a year later, an opportunity, I found this one opportunity to do yoga. It didn't work out the way I thought it would. And then I stumbled across Studio 34. Now, I know Studio 34 because I used to live in West Philly and take African dance classes there. But when I saw the yoga teacher train, I was like, this is what I want to do. And so it's through my personal journey of not being someone who's naturally flexible. I've never been a pretzel, even though I dance. I was the one in dance where they had to sit on you and do all these crazy things to increase your flexibility. And I always said, like, I have to fight for my flexibility. And so I'm someone who has a physical limitation, who knew what it's like to have even more physical limitation. And yoga was a tool that I used to shift the energy in my mind so that I can see things differently and change my perspective. And yoga is a tool that has helped me in my physical health. When I work out with my trainer, shout out to Guru, West Philly, Al. When I work out with him, I'm training better because I know how to hold my body and I know how to breathe. And so, yoga just has been, I want people to have that transformative experience. I want people who never saw themselves doing yoga because maybe of the color of their skin, maybe because of their weight, because of physical limitations. I want them to come to my class and just sit on the mat. We're so busy that we often don't even have time to sit. And yoga teaches us to be still.
Wow. Incredible testimony. And basically, you took an injury and it could have been worse. You turning it around for your purpose. This is now your yoga instructor because you learn yoga while you was in therapy. You was in therapy, you learned yoga right there. Okay, this will help me be more flexible, help me get a sense of peace, but also get a sense of be more grateful, be faithful for what God's done, what God spared you from. Even though you had injury, you had surgery, but it could have been worse. It could have been more things. Could have been in a wheelchair. Could have been dead.
Yeah.
So sometimes you gotta be grateful for the things He spared you from. And you're in pain, you're like, okay, it's still worthy of praise. And talking about the pandemic, and I'm the type of person like I work with kids, and I'll be in schools, doing workshops, things like that. When the pandemic happened, while I stayed home, I felt like it was time for me to get to know God better and get to my mental health and find out where I was mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and find out what way people really are. Even know things like, hey, how you doing? Met so much of people, even checking in with them. We didn't think about that, checking in. But say hi to someone, hey, how's it going? How's life treating you? Could be help to someone to know that it's going to be all right. Someone actually out here cares about me, it was a lot. I did a lot of personal development. I actually met my wife during that time. Thank you. It's in the midst of the pandemic. So our stories is really amazement at how we made a relationship work without having many things open to do it. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of self-examination. A lot of self-reflection, a lot of deep thinking, and think about, okay, is if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm doing what God called me to do, you know. So now now I think yoga is some meditation is some type of thing. It's so needed right now in our community. Cause a lot of kids, like our youth, or a lot of adults, don't have an outlet to that let go of the anger, that frustration, that impulse to do something not that violent. You know, yoga can help that. Yoga can even sitting there, maybe like you said, so you sat there, you know what I mean? And like being in that environment can help some way it should perform. So yeah, because you know, because I'm definitely about providing healing and just healing, even one step at a time. It's that you took a step, you know what I mean? Change your mind shift and your mindset, you know. So my question to you is. So is your studio in Philly or Jersey, kid?
So I practice and guide people who practice in both Philadelphia and South Jersey.
Okay.
And so on Sundays I'm at a spot called Philadelphia Soul. You know, it's a beautiful yoga studio. Sundays at 9 a.m. You can always join me Sundays at 9 a.m. at Soul Garden. It's at 1000 Buttonwood Street. You would need to register so that I know that you're arriving. And you would need to arrive by like 8:45. Because I also teach on Facebook Live on Sunday.
Got you.
And so there's sometimes people in the class as I'm doing Facebook Live. You're more than welcome to lead me in practice or allow me to lead you in practice. On Saturdays, I'm doing a backyard series, but I was teaching in Palmyra. That's also an option. You would need to register. And how you register would be through my social media. I teach private lessons for groups of people.
Okay.
So I have a few of those coming up. My next big yoga event is August 8th.
Okay.
In South Jersey. It's Ignite Summer Body Series at Crunch Fitness in Morristown. So at 12 p.m. I'll guide people through a practice. August 8th in Morristown, New Jersey at Crunch Fitness. So if you can join me, that's really great. Early bird tickets are $12. If you pay at the door, it's $15. And so it's a part of a series. I'm the first, fitness instructor. So there's yoga, there's a HIIT class, and then there is a Zumba all throughout August. So if you sign up for mine, you can get a discount of going to all three for $30. So yeah. But when I think of yoga, I'm catering to people who never saw themselves doing yoga. Not to say there's an underbelly of black men doing yoga, and a lot of black men in Philadelphia that do yoga. I just taught a yoga class for a group of young men, basketball team in Philadelphia, and yoga is for everyone. And so when we think about the definition of yoga, for generations it's been passed down and slightly altered. And so I'm reading a book called, what's the name of the book? I don't remember the name of the book. But it was called The Heart of Yoga.
Okay.
The Heart of Yoga, Developing a Personal Practice. And so one of the definitions that they offer to describe yoga, yoga means to come together, to unite, to tie the strands of the mind. And to go a little deeper, yoga means to attain what is previously unattainable. And so a lot of people see themselves and say, oh, I can't do that, but you can. It's just a practice, and in time, through yoga, your body adjusts. It's just a matter of time for your body to lengthen and for you to become more flexible. And so, yoga is not about perfection. There is an alignment to prevent injury, but you just have to accept where your body is on that mat, not in comparison of anyone, not even yourself. If you practice it, there's days where I'll teach 4 days a week, and one practice will be like, oh, I'm really flexible, and the next day it'll be like, well, what happened, right? And so you can't get in this competition that we often have even with ourselves about being better. No, just accept what is and sit on the mat. And so yoga is also acting in such a way that that all of our attention is directed towards the activity that we're currently engaged in. And so yoga requires you to really focus. And so often we're doing so much or multitasking.
True.
You have to ask yourself, are you functioning? Or are you functioning and fully engaged?
Right.
Right? And so we can do a lot, but if you are thinking of other things in that moment, you really aren't engaged.
Right.
You really aren't present. And so it's a way for us not to multitask. I remember my first weekend in yoga teacher training. It would go in and you say your pronouns. I'm she, her. You would say your name, Dejenaba Gordon. And then you would say how you felt. And I would say, I'm good. I'm good. I'm great. And so, but I realized for 3 days straight, the only word that I used was great or good, right? I can't remember which one it was. It was like the same baseline word. And I realized, because our trainings, you're sitting there for hours. You're like from 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. And so I realized, how is it each day is a new day, but I'm using the same word to describe how I feel.
Right.
I'm functioning. I wasn't fully present. Because the reality of it is I wasn't so great, but also pushed me to become a yoga teacher training instructor or to attend that teacher training was a relationship had just ended. And I was sad. I was sad that the relationship ended. You know, the guy I was dating at that time was dating someone else. And in my mind, they were all over social media. Now, maybe it was just 1 or 2 pictures. But I was like, they're all over social media. I was really devastated and like, wow. And it was sad for me. But I kept saying that was great. Because I wasn't really being present to how I felt in that moment. Or I was too afraid to show.
How you were really feeling. You wasn't being transparent. You was great. You just got the cover. I'm good, but inside you was hurting. Like you didn't know. You know, you get that space. But now I think you did yoga to help you be more vulnerable, be more transparent with how you feel at that moment. Because you, like you said, you can't multitask. You gotta be fully focused in the moment of doing yoga or doing meditation, whatever that is, to be fully present. You know.
Yeah. And so I'll share this quote with you from the Heart of Yoga. The Heart of Yoga shares that when we are attentive to our actions, we are no longer prisoners to our habits. We do not need to do something today simply because we did it yesterday. And so that just sums up like what I was doing. I was so used to saying I'm great, but I wasn't really checking in to see how I felt. And I wasn't allowing myself to feel differently than I did yesterday. And so probably my favorite definition of yoga is to, which is more of a classic definition when you look at some of the older texts, is to be one with the divine. And so for me that's important because of my faith. I feel like we're often so busy. How do we hear God's voice?
Right.
How do we read our Bibles? Right? You know, you take a Bible, it's a big text. There's all these words, all these stories, and it's overwhelming. And so if we're not in the practice of just sitting and being still, we're never going to go through that Bible. If we're not in the practice of learning how to just be fully present, how do we really get on our knees and pray? Right? How do we study? And so for me, yoga has allowed me to quiet my mind in a way that I feel like I hear God more. Now I'm not saying you need yoga to hear God.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying if you never did yoga, I believe you still would hear from God. I'm saying for me, because I was living a life that wasn't fully present in the moment, because I was just responding to every emotion that I had, that yoga gave me space and a tool to quiet myself, to be more grounded. So when I engage with God or engage in my practice of getting to know God, I'm more present. So.
That's awesome. And you're doing an excellent job doing it in South Jersey and Philly. Now traveling it, you know, so who knows? Maybe you have a yoga school. You can teach other people how to do yoga, become trainers. You went for a training, you know what I mean, to become certified. Now you can do your own academy, help other people become certified trainers. You know, I think that's really an awesome thing. You know, so where people can find you for more information.
Yeah, definitely. So I did want to open up a yoga studio. So pray and keep your fingers crossed for that. And so maybe perhaps I will end up expanding to teach other people. But you can find me on social media at @theyoga_South Jersey on Instagram. So that's @theyoga_South Jersey because I'm from South Jersey. Or you can find me on The Yoga South Jersey on Facebook. And so yeah, that's where you can find me. So again, my name is Dejenaba Gordon. The Yoga. So thankful for being here.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much. You know, because it's funny because it's crazy that how God works because I was working at my job. We had Asset Center, and we had got yoga mats. So my group leaders would do yoga with our kids. Like it would be like her. She'd be doing yoga with her and 3 girls, like 3 of them. They're all same grade, kindergarten. So like I was like, oh yeah, she did do yoga with them. So, you know, I kind of envision that being in the schools, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm trying to I'm very thinking about this now, but it came ahead. So I'm at school. I'm a site director, so I really would love because a couple years before the pandemic, we had different people coming out do workshops for the kids. We had someone do dance, someone do chess, coding, you know. So now the world is totally different. So I'm really focused on healing, mental health, and I'm thinking about having yoga as part of our classes for the fall. So youth yoga, you know what I mean? Youth yoga, just teach the basics. Okay, you know, some kids' bodies are developing, they may not be flexible, or some of the foot, you know. So teach the basics from like, hey, basic yoga, you know, because if I get our kids to at least try it, just relax, you know, just see how this can be beneficial in the long run. They might understand that. Okay, I'm like doing it. Okay, what's this? But at least get them to try it. Even they go in the room and just sit there. They in the presence, you know. Okay, so that's something I think about in the fall because I think about different things. We've already had the greatness, and then you know, we still in schools. We don't know it's gonna be in classes or virtual. So you know, I will definitely would love to partner with you. So once we get more detailed information, because I want to bring that to the forefront, and this I know we had a lot of yoga mats at my site, my job. So I don't know what happened to them. So
let me just share this. I would love to work with young people.
Yes.
Even if let's say there's a scheduling conflict, I have a community of people who teach yoga around me. So I would love it if I can't do it. I would direct
yes.
can do it. And so just to be really clear on how yoga impacts the mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is from an article that I read. It says yoga practice inhibits the areas responsible for fear, aggressiveness, and rage, and stimulate the rewarding pleasure centers and the median forebrain and other areas leading to a state of bliss and pleasure. And so when I say yoga is a place of escape, when we teach our young people how to get on a mat or just sit in a space and breathe, right? We're giving them a tool that for the rest of their lives, it doesn't matter what's happening in their environment. They know how to access something inside themselves to escape. And that escape allows them to recalibrate and think about their next move. And so I would love that opportunity. Just let me know.
I'll definitely let you know. Because a couple of weeks ago, we had option to do like a yoga thing for my kids, you know, in the summer. You know what I mean? At least maybe a couple sessions if I knew what you're gonna be, know what something's gonna look like. So you know, so but now we kind of have a little idea what we're doing for the fall. So I'm trying to figure out what my role's gonna be in the fall, where I'm gonna be at. So how much fun that would get budget-wise, so we get some yoga mats for our kids, you know, so, and then maybe you could talk to parents, like the benefits of it, you know, like why they should do it, you know, promote it, you know what I'm saying, like, because, like,
We can do a parent and child yoga things together.
oh, yeah, parent engagement, you know what I mean, like, figure, okay, I think, okay, let's do yoga, okay, then why are we doing it? What's the benefits of that? You know, then we talk to, okay, maybe try it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think that's something we got really about healing, just get our kids to deal with trauma. You know, deal with the trauma.
And when you think about the ACEs,
Mm-hmm.
in Philadelphia, you think about poverty in Philadelphia, you think about the trauma and the layers of trauma that we all went through as Black and brown people during the pandemic, right? We need tools to help us.
Right, exactly.
Our babies need to be. I mean, I did the Welcome American tour, and I was so thankful because there was a preschool, and there was this little brown boy. They all were doing it, but this little brown boy was like 5, and I said, his mother or father does yoga with him. He has that tool, and it just brought me so much joy.
Wonderful. I love it. I love this interview. Thank you for those who are watching the conversation. You're going to watch it later on when it's spare time, because yoga is definitely something needed, you know, something essential. I ain't thinking about doing yoga, you know. So
You and your wife, I hope y'all better be on it.
yeah, yes. We are something about thinking about. You're trying to figure out what will work both for us, you know. So, you know, she started kickboxing. Yeah, so I might do yoga on Mondays too. So me, and just to get us to relax and rest our mind, you know, because we do a lot. We know a lot of things. We don't have time to like sit down and plan and think and reflect and be in the moment, you know. So, you know, so I think that's very important. So, thank you so much for being guest of the show. Thank you for your traveling, getting safely, you know. We'll pray for your family. I know you've been for a lot, you know. Praying for those who are going for a lot of healing. And, you know, one of the resources you can use in that midst of your pain is yoga. You can contact her, Dejenaba. Just contact her and see how she get you started, because she can help people get through that grieving part, that grieving, that healing piece, the hurt piece, you know, so she is here to support y'all, you know. She got some dates coming up, you know, that she come out and support her. She does yoga every Sunday on Facebook? Every Sunday on Facebook, every Sunday at 9 a.m.? At 9 a.m., yep.
In person on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, wonderful. So I will promote that on our page and where people go to and things like that. So hope you enjoy the rest of our Saturday. Everyone's nice day outside. Get some work done. Get some yard work done. Get some cleaning done. Take time for yourself. Reflect. Think. Be in the moment. Spend some time with God. You know, to just be thankful, grateful for what you have, because your life can change in one moment. So, yeah. So with that being said, have a blessed week. We see you all next Saturday for the episode of the One With Soul to Experience radio show.